Madam Toastmaster of the day, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. Once upon a time, there was a handsome, smart prince who was loved by all. Let's call him Tony. Prince Tony was out walking in the forests of his kingdom when he came across a great tower of fudge. Now, he had heard about these towers of fudge in the legends, but he didn't believe they actually exist. But in front of him was an 11-foot tower of marshmallowy chocolate. The odors of this fudge were wafting throughout the forest. Prince Tony went up to the tower, brushed his hand up against it, and could feel the tower melting in his fingers. But Prince Tony was also very familiar with the legend of the Tower of the Fudge, that the tower would disappear within 24 hours, and you could not take any of the fudge with you. Because after you left the tower, all of the fudge would turn to fire and immediately kill the greedy gatherer. As Tony looked at the Tower of the Fudge, he became more and more encapsulated with it. He knew he had to have some. So he went up to the tower and he took a bite. The smooth fudge melted as it went down his throat. He knew he had to get some more. So he took one bite, and then he took another bite, and then he took an even bigger bite yet. Tony was very familiar with the legend, so he knew that he could not take any of the fudge with him, but he knew that he had to have as much fudge as possible. So Tony opened his mouth as wide as he could and tried to take a bite of the Tower of the Fudge. But unlike his earlier bites, this time he did not get any fudge at all. He had opened his mouth so wide that it was stuck open and he could not take a bite of the chocolate. Tony immediately called for help. Actually, it was more like, "Ah!" because he couldn't close his mouth to make any of the sounds. But help did not come, so he decided to go back to his castle. All of the doctors in the kingdom tried to help him get his jaw shut, but no one could succeed, and his mouth was immediately and perpetually stuck open. Now, Tony was really depressed, but one day he decided that he was going to get out of his funk and take a walk through his kingdom. When he was walking through the town square, he encountered a group of travelers, and they had set up a little contest. They were looking for the greatest whistler in the land, and they were going to give a prize of 200 pieces of gold if they could find the greatest whistler. Now, Prince Tony was known throughout the land as one of the greatest whistlers there was, so he was very excited about this contest, for he knew that 200 pieces of gold would be very beneficial to his kingdom. But he tried to shut his mouth, to pucker his lips, to make a whistling sound, but nothing would come out, just a small hum. The travelers immediately started making fun of him. "How can you be such a bad whistler?" And they took all of their gold and they traveled off to the next land. This made Tony even more depressed, and he went back to his castle. Now, Prince Tony's servants were getting really concerned about him, that he was getting so depressed and he wasn't able to leave his room. And they tried to come up with a plan to get him out of his funk. But then they received a message from a neighboring kingdom. They thought that this might do it. One of the servants went up to Prince Tony's room and they said, Prince Tony, we have received a message from the southern kingdom of Oi. Princess Carla is looking for a husband and is looking for suitors. You should take a journey to the southern kingdom of Oi and make Carla your wife. Prince Tony immediately packed up his bag, got on his horse, and went to the southern kingdom of Oi. And there he met Princess Carla. Carla was one of the most beautiful girls in the land, long brown curly hair, and she was known for her kindness and generosity to all of the people in her kingdom. Now, he was still having problems talking, but he had devised a little blackboard that they would write messages that would help him communicate with Carla throughout the day. They had conversations all day and ended up not leaving each other's side for the entire week. he was so in love with Carla that he decided that he was going to go ask Carla's father, King Olaf of Owai, for her hand in marriage. He went up to the king, all nervous, wrote on the board, "I would like to marry your daughter." King Olaf looked at the blackboard and said, "Tony, I give you my blessing to marry your daughter, but before you and Carla go off to make a kingdom of your own, please come and kiss my ring." Tony went up to the king, tried to shut his mouth to kiss the king's ring, but he couldn't. His jaw was still stuck, completely open. In embarrassment, he ran off to the side of the castle, got on his horse, and went back to his kingdom. Forever, Prince Tony sat in his room, cursing that tower of fudge, wishing that he would never have taken off such a big bite. And that is why we have the moral of our story today: never bite off more than you can chew.